You set me up. You set me up on that. You set me up. You said, "Hey, Dave Meltzer thinks you're great in this. Do you agree with Dave Meltzer?" You set me up on that. That was well played.
That's what I do.
Well played.
Let's talk about
Meltzer's 100% correct. What a great guy.
John Cena and Shawn Michaels are going to team up to take on Jericho and Orton. You're going to be watching backstage on a monitor. In the end, Orton is going to try an FU on Cena.
Hey, think about that tag match for a second. Those four guys.
Hall of Famers. John Cena and Shawn Michaels against Jericho and Randy Orton. Not on a pay-per-view, not at a SummerSlam, on a regular-ass Monday Night Raw. That's a pretty big-time main event, which has always been a real head-scratcher for why the business was sort of on a downswing at the time. Like, we've got so many stars loaded in here. I know the company's profitable and business is good, but it's not the boom that we experienced before or after. Do you buy into that whole the business is cyclical, or is that an excuse, do you think, from bookers?
No, it's cyclical, but it's also an excuse. It's an excuse for that you don't create talent. And the reason I believe it's cyclical, and I think I can back this up, is you have one Stone Cold, okay? So when Steve comes along, you put everything behind him. And Steve always believed this. I've heard Steve say this very much. When you get a guy really hot, and he wasn't talking about himself, he's talking about just in general, because Steve's pretty modest guy, from what you see, watch his cat videos and stuff. Steve's a really good dude, and happy Austin 316 day, by the way. But Steve used to always say, when a guy gets hot, you put the whole company behind him, and that's generally what you do. Tommy Wildfire Rich gets hot, you put the company behind him. Von Erichs get hot, you put company behind him. You have Shawn Michaels get hot, you put the company behind him. The problem happens what happens when they leave, because they generally leave quick. You look at big stars, they generally don't just kind of fade off. Now, some do, but most, you find a way, something happens. They go to Hollywood, they get injured, and then all of a sudden the business drops off, and you've had all this equity into one or two guys because they're so freaking hot. Because when the business gets hot, you want to put everything behind those guys because you're selling out every arena you put their name on. Now, understand there's usually a loaded card underneath them. I understand all that. But you usually have one or two super hot guys. But when those two guys, something happens to them, their career ends for some reason, business goes down significantly. It takes a while to build new stars. That's why I think business is cyclical. I've heard people say, just oversimplify it and say, business goes up every few years, goes down every few years. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No, it doesn't. It goes up and goes down with stars. It's an attraction-oriented business. And when you have huge stars and you're able to get the business to a huge level, once those stars fade for whatever reason, and they all do, whether age or different opportunities or injuries, you have a downswing in the business. It's cyclical because of talent, is my opinion.
I do want to ask you about the finish here. Shawn is going to nail the super kick and get the pin, and we're seeing you on the monitor, and you don't necessarily seem upset that Shawn didn't follow your orders. Of course, that means that we're going to see Shawn Michaels and John Cena in a non-title match on Monday Night Raw. Cena's going to hit the STF, but you're at ringside. You push the rope towards Shawn so he can grab it for the break. And Shawn even seems unhappy that you're helping him here. Later, as Cena is going for the ropes, you're on the apron. Cena pauses, turns around into a super kick, and Shawn gets the clean pin. So we need to establish that Shawn can beat John Cena, but can he do it without the help of JBL? Next up is the contract signing for you and John Cena. The key, of course, is Cena telling Michaels that after wrestling him, he's more talented than anyone, and he's still Mr. WrestleMania, and he can't understand why anyone is working for JBL. And Michaels says that Cena doesn't understand where he's coming from because he's got to provide for his wife and send his kids to college. And I lost both my and her savings in the stock market crash. And Cena believes in the end, Michaels wouldn't cost him the title. Michaels said to Cena he was wrong. And Michaels goes to sucker punch Cena, but Cena's distracted. So you do the sucker punch. And when Michaels leaves the ring, you lariat him. Very good segment. People really like this. And listen, here you are thrown right back into the main event with two icons of WWE now. I mean, I know that, you're a wrestling god, but I'm saying you just think for a minute what Shawn Michaels meant to the company and what John Cena means to the company in that very moment. Of course, with the benefit of hindsight, we all know what a big star John was and became. But here we are sort of in the meat of his rise, January 2009. This is like the heart of the run. And there you are, shoulder to shoulder. This is a pretty cool moment for you, is it not?
Oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely. You look back at moments in life and you look, man, what am I doing in that ring? I wrestled Hogan one time in Philadelphia, and I remember thinking the same thing. It's just cool. Sometimes you're out there with guys, and they consider you a contemporary, whether you are or not, and then they treat you as such. And it's so cool to be out there with them. They're on kind of a playing field that's all level. We're all out there together. And it's really cool, though. You look back at it; those guys are massive, huge stars, icons of this wrestling industry, much bigger than me. And I got to go out there and play in the sandbox with them. And that was pretty cool.
Let's talk about the Royal Rumble. Here you are challenging for the world title, John Cena and JBL for the big belt. Of course, the storyline here is if you win the title, you're going to pay Shawn Michaels so much money he never has to work again. Eventually, we see you kick the referee, Mike Chioda. Shout out to Mike over at adfreeshows.com. And JBL and Cena are going to hit each other with simultaneous clotheslines. And when both go down, Shawn Michaels gets in. And he's going to start teasing that he's going to super kick Cena, but instead he super kicks JBL. Fans pop for that. Cena is smiling, and then Shawn super kicks Cena. And he's stalling with the idea, who do I put on top here? I've knocked both fellas out with the sweet chin music. What do I do? Well, he puts you on top of John Cena. He goes and grabs referee Jack Doan, tells him to make the count. But Cena kicks out at 2. You go for the lariat. Cena ducks it, and he hits the patented move for the pin. I guess we're trying to move away from calling it the FU here. But I like this little bit where Shawn kind of finds himself being the monkey in the middle. When he super kicks you, everyone's excited, but they don't expect that second super kick. I love that little extra hump in the roller coaster there.
Oh, that's a Vince special. Loves doing stuff like that. That's directly from the boss himself. That's maybe Shawn thought of, maybe even Cena thought, but that's something Vince loved to do. The big, oh my goodness, he's finally a good guy. No, he didn't. No, he take it from him. Pull the rug out from under him. As Akbar used to say, we left them just like they like to be, miserable and mad. And that's how you leave them. I thought it was great. Which, by the way, I'd wrestled Shawn somewhere with Chioda as a referee, and I don't remember when it was. I thought it was in Europe. I can't remember. It could have been in Beijing or it could have been on the moon, or Poughkeepsie. Who knows? But I was wrestling Shawn, and I was calling a spot through the referee, and I just wanted to tell this story because I want to tell a little bit about how cool Shawn is. I was trying to call a spot through Chioda, and the crowd was pretty loud because it was Shawn in the ring with me, and I'd taken something into the corner, and I wanted to come out with a tackle, just a flying tackle and knock Shawn out of the ring. So I said, "Tell him tackle," and Chioda couldn't hear me, and I said, "Tackle, tell him tackle," and he couldn't hear me because of the crowd. I said, "Damn it, it's tackle!" And so when I said it, finally Chioda heard me, turned and told Shawn to the tackle. Shawn pulled me aside in the back, and he said, "Hey, listen, man." He said, "I will do anything you want." He goes, "But don't cuss me." And he wasn't commentating. He just like the matter. And I felt like I was 2 inches tall. I said, "No, I said, I couldn't believe that Shawn thought it was that him." I said, "No, Shawn, I was cussing, not even at the ref. I was just cussing because I couldn't get the spot called, but it was to Chioda." I said, I would never do that with you. But I always thought it was cool that Shawn, just real professionally pulled me aside and said, "Hey, just," he goes, "Don't cuss me," because he thought I'd yell. He thought I was cussing at him because he couldn't hear the spot, and which I would never do. I wouldn't cuss at Chioda either, by the way. I just was cussing, and it happened to be yelling at Chioda at the time.
I mean, I've heard guys, I know I shouldn't say this, but I've heard guys sort of lay out and call a match before the show. And I don't know how you do it without the F word. I've never heard it without it. I'm sure it can be done. I bet AJ Styles doesn't do it. But I heard a guy say, boom, 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 into the fucking deal, fuck him over the top.
It's unbelievable.
Slide back under the bottom, fuck deal. And it's like, wait, what happened? And they're both like, yep, got it. And I'm like, I don't even know. I didn't think you could use that. What just happened? But they both walked away like, all right, well, there's a spot. And then sure enough later, boom, 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 fuck him over the top, fuck him in the deal, fuck him in the face. And I was like, That's exactly what it was. But how did they know? So I get that exists, but it is weird, isn't it?
It's incredibly weird. I used to sit there with Glenn Jacobs, Kane, and we'd just laugh at guys talking over matches because every other word was the F word. It's just something. Guys who didn't even curse would be seriously. Guys who did not curse would sit there going over a match with the fucking coming down the fucking hit. Just every other word's F word. And like, I don't know where the dynamic started, but it's very fun to listen to.